I often joke at architecture school, they teach you what they think good design looks like. If you're lucky, they'll teach you how to design, but they don't teach you how it happens, which is what I've always had a bit of an obsession with since leaving practice. Is this started? There we go. So my graduation was about 6 months before the earthquake, so quite a different legacy to the Warren and Marnie kind of depth, but we just started to try and get things happening, and a couple of friends, including Joseph actually, funnily enough, as soon as the earthquakes happened, set out this call for ideas to try and gather discussion and potential around also engagement, so that people would actually be a part of the city that was going to be made. This is working very good. I've given myself more time than I expected. So we realised it was quite draining also to actually try and get ideas out of other people and stimulation like that. So we started just trying to do what we could within our own means. I think the first Gapfiller project, we threw as much money on the table as we were willing to lose. And then we got something happening about 10 days later. We developed organisational capacity and structure and funding and got more and more ambitious and set ourselves wonderful aims like a no repeats policy, which is great for creative practice, but not very good for business strategy, if anyone wants to think. But we started to develop a lot of skills and actually just how to mobilise volunteers, how to get unusual things happening, how to write funding applications, how to start projects with absolutely no money and just shopping around going, would you like to help with this? And what do you mean by help with this? I'll make it for free. Admittedly, it was a very different era after the earthquakes with money flowing around and so on, but we did nonetheless develop a very interesting set of skills and a kind of a mode of practice, which I think was very contextual to Christchurch, obviously. I was working from 2010 to 2014 in F3 design, and you realise in retrospect the kind of some of the fun that you didn't quite realise at the time, including spending a lot of time in workshops and actually just making things and prototyping. And it was quite funny getting the building consent officers down to look at a building that we'd built to ask about the detailing and how it complied with the building code. But then in 2014 we set up Field Studio with, I often joke, $2,000 in the bank account and a laptop. That was about the degree of planning, and it just seemed the appropriate thing to do. But we were looking at a few key principles amongst other things, but wanted to do a lot of work with community organisations and get basically values-based architecture happening, and also diverse voices and to get different outcomes. So more than 50% of our revenue, even with discounted rates, is working with community groups. Always tick the other box. One of these that we kind of came in contact with in about 2017 was the wonderful Sue Bagshaw, Dame Sue Bagshaw, it turned out. And she's been working for a very long time on this youth hub. And the context of being a young person in today's world is pretty scary at the best of times, let alone in Christchurch, where the earthquakes and mosque shootings and all this kind of thing has been extraordinarily brutal in terms of the social context. The Youth Hub provides a full kind of holistic understanding of how to support the development of young people, and young people are being at the centre of this whole project. It was very important, obviously, to go out to them and ask what a Youth Hub even means. There's also all the organisations that are part of the hub, so a huge number of youth-centric organisations, which is quite a delicate but also strong ecosystem in terms of, again, support and even the economy around it. So again, co-design engagement processes to untangle, obviously, the many different ideas, requirements and needs folding in. Had a wonderful engagement with Marta Popuri, who gifted the kind of concept, the drive of the kahikatea, and all that's lovely whakatoki and so on together with that. Combining all of these different voices, we were pulling together the guiding architectural principles for the project as well to help steer the decision-making right through. And then there's also just, man, it's so great working with young people. The stuff they come out with, it's just awesome. And the trust wanting to respond to young people meant that this then gets mandated into the design, which is really quite powerful. Also, this is just a little smattering of them, but a lot of principles to actually kind of guide the design. So miraculously, it gets funding. I often joke, a project with a blue scissor lift on the front facade got government funding, which is quite bizarre, but beneficiary of the shovel-ready infrastructure money. You can see it's quite a substantial project. We're about halfway through. Poor Jasper has to look at a blank wall at the moment, but we're working on that. A very kind of complex layering of uses and very sensitive. You've got, very private appointments and so on, but also starting to borrow, that's again the Christchurch context. We do have a lot of lessons here, and this art centre is a wonderful example of different courtyards and so on for circulation. So this is one of the courtyards. It's just this is yesterday, this photo, so it's still in construction. But these provide circulation and quite kind of gentle layering of spaces, but also you're starting to get kind of multiple access routes and so on to stop entrapment zones and all of these things that were quite kind of severe needs of the project, but then also trying to create quite kind of hunkered and secure spaces where it's also kind of squeezing out into the views of the natural environment and so on. Well, a creative natural environment. A lot of input about avoiding is becoming institutional, and so a lot of requests for natural materials and diverse spaces and warm, friendly, kind of just a bit of the kind of fun and curiosity of uncovering different locations. This is essentially co-housing for 23 young people, this transitional housing, supported housing. The idea that different people like different things seems to make quite good sense. You go into these rooms with people and they're like, I like this one, I don't like this one, I like that one. So we made every single room different. So it's not trying to seek to standardise people, which seems nonsense to me always anyhow. But the ground floor has these private courtyards, which starts to weave in some of these other opportunities where Mata Popuri were talking with us about trying to kind of re-establish swampland as the kind of landscape strategy. And so these courtyards, which were assumed to be basically concrete paving with grass, become little jetties that go out into this re-established kind of wetland ecosystem, which we then brought up onto the roof. The environmentally conscious kind of design approach was very important to young people as well. You don't want to be part of the destruction of the future when you're trying to actually encourage it. And so bringing up the plantings and so on onto the roof space, so again, quite kind of playful, but also fixing some pretty serious kind of stormwater detention requirements. So trying to get those really challenging building act demands and make them quite playful. Again, so these roof terraces, it's great for drying laundry and these practical things like getting out of a fire safely and so on, but making it actually a usable, playful space and starting to take that courtyard idea but make it very kind of three-dimensional as well. And again, so you get quite a fun sense of discovery as you're moving through the space. This is now the wraparound services atrium where we're always sometimes engagement can be something that happens at the start or mildly tokenistic even throughout, but we're always looking at opportunities to kind of enrich the projects and people through kind of a continuation of it. So the atrium's got these kind of feature walls that are deliberately very blank. That was very much part of the strategy at the onset. And then again, working with local artists and some of the trust members and so on, taking traditional and contemporary approaches and more playful colours and so on, and then riffing back onto how you get things made and prototyping and actually pulling all of this stuff together. But again, in terms of that mode of trying to get things happening, we're testing all of this partly to work out how it looks, but also how much. There's 15 centimetres per knot. It's kind of more than you'd think. But quantifying all of this so we can actually start to put it into funding applications so that it can actually happen. Otherwise they just remain blank walls. So we find ourselves as a practice getting very involved in actually trying to, it's the same thing with the Youth Hub generally, helping write the funding applications. This seems like a very long time that we're looking at Matt. No offence, Matt, but it should be moving. And I timed it so carefully so I'd stick to the 8 minutes. Oh, come on. The mouse?
Is it your last slide?
No, it's not the last slide. Yeah, there we go. Oh, no, that's back. Forward. that looks a little bit more Aztec than it will eventually, but you kind of get the idea. But again, in terms of building these projects and just kind of keeping it going, another aspect of this is these murals. But so we're planting these seeds very early on in the design process so that it's an integral part of the architecture rather than just some tokenistic thing at the end. So you can see this is just over the fence from the other courtyard, so a very different kind of atmosphere in a much more public and kind of urban space environment. So this is the activities court, so there'll be a basketball hoop, and all of those murals are going to be bombed with wonderful colour and so on. And it's been a very interesting resource consent process, but this is all inside, so the neighbours get no say on what happens in here. And so you can see how it starts to become part of that quite vibrant mix of what this project is. But again, this has actually got some funding as well, and this is now a full program where it's like quite intensively engaging with young people so that they can actually learn what it means to commission artwork, to organise it, to get all of these things happening, and that starts to then embody into the project in an ongoing kind of series of work, so that it's that practice kind of following through. Anyhow, thank you very much.